Improving cover crop outcomes on your farming operation. It's time to get with the program. I'm talking to you about what worked, what didn't, and how you can have really good outcomes from cover crops in this episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
Welcome to XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve podcast, where real farmers share real insights and real results to help you improve your farming operation. And now, here's your host, Damian Mason.
Hey there, welcome to another fantastic episode of XtremeAg Cutting the Curve. I've got XtremeAg patriarch Kelly Garrett on here. He's joined by BioTill's TJ Kartes. We've had him on a couple of times before. We talk about cover crops. If you're not tuning into this because you say, oh, cover crops won't work here, you know what? Tune into this. If you think, oh, no, we're going to tell you exactly what Kelly has done, outcomes, what worked, what didn't, and we're going to tell you why you very much should consider getting off of your anti-cover crop stance. You know why? We think, the three of us, that regulation is coming in the next few years to agriculture that might just require you to use cover crops from a nutrient management plan. I'm not here to scare you into submission. I'm just telling you what I see happening, and TJ agrees, and I think Kelly does too. Anyway, TJ, you and I had a little planning call because we want to make sure this recording was valid. And you said, we're going to talk about what worked, what didn't. We're going to talk about all this, and we're going to talk about the future. So main things you said, let's talk about moving beyond cereal rye. That's the big one, because 10 years ago, we started hearing about cover crops. I'll go out and aerial seed some cereal rye. Why don't you tell me about what, in your mind, moving beyond cereal rye looks like? And then we're going to go to what Kelly is doing and what he did in 2025 and what he's going to expand upon in 2026.
Thanks, Damian. So, cereal rye was the go-to all the time. It worked. It's almost a no-brainer. It doesn't fail. But we've seen issues in front of corn, and we've always seen this in front of corn. You don't want competition in front of your corn crop. You don't want things that can cause a problem in front of your corn crop. So we have guys that make it work, right? But there's other options out there. And what we've tried to do is really look at this aspect of, let's get the brassicas. Let's get like kale and cabbage and turnips and those kind of things from beans to corn. Let's get more of a neutral grass in front of corn if we can. Let's get past this cereal rye. So winter-treated kale is an overwintering one we put in front of corn, or we'll put oats out there. Yes, they'll die in the fall and up Midwest, but they'll live late in the fall, and it gives them great attributes to the soils. It's something that works really easily. So we have some other ideas here than just say, put rye out there. Just use rye all the time. Because what we've done is, what I feel we've really done is, we've created some disease issues. Once again, if you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, you're going to cause a problem. And I think that's what we've done with the cereal rye in front of corn, or corn to beans, corn to beans. In front of beans, it works great. In front of corn, we got some issues. So we're trying to move past that and say, front of beans, great. In front of corn, let's look at some different options.
Front of corn, because it's grass on grass, it's pulling the same nutrients, and it introduces the same soil problems. So real quickly, the first objective of cover cropping was to control soil erosion. It's an issue in places where Kelly is because he's got hugely sloping fields. If you're in a flat land area, you're like, I don't have that problem. Well, you still might, because if you do too much tillage, you'll have wind erosion. But the second objective, if I'm not mistaken here, is to enhance the soil. Besides just soil erosion prevention, it's to enhance the soil. And we can argue that cereal rye did the first one. It kept the ground from washing away, but it didn't necessarily do a lot to enhance the soil. In fact, to your point, it may have actually degraded, but not degraded it, but put enough problems out there to mess up your following crop.
Right. And I think that's where in front of corn, Damian, we always have to look at what's the next thing, what's the better thing. In front of beans, it works great, and it checks that box. It scavenges up the nitrogen. So one of the first comments about cereal rye was, we had the little water problem down there in Des Moines we all heard about, lawsuit, and everybody's pointing fingers, and all these naughty farmers were putting too much nitrogen out there. They're putting on what the recommendations were saying. The ground just wasn't holding the nitrogen through the next year. The corn wasn't utilizing all of it. So you put a cereal rye crop out there, scavenged it up. Sarah Carlson's stuff showed that in the beginning. Worked great. But in front of corn, it's almost the other side of it. And then we saw some disease issues of Pythium and Fusarium, allelopathic effect causing seedling diseases. So let's advance away from that. So the erosion side, right now we're melting our snow away in southern Minnesota because we're nice and warm. Our ditches where there's a lot of tillage are full of dirt. Now, we just had a farm sell in this area for $10,000. We had a farm sell a month ago for $17,000. I don't want that dirt going in the ditch. I'm sorry. If I paid 17 grand for a farm and it's blown away, I'd be pretty sick to myself right now, especially when there's something I can do to change it. So wind erosion is huge. Water erosion, just running over the top moves soil. Everything moves dirt. If there's something growing, the soil stays where it belongs. So what can we put out there to accomplish these goals? Then the next part is carbon. The whole time that's growing, we're plowing carbon in the soil. Carbon's our elixir of life for our microbes. They're going to feed the microbes, keep them healthy, keep them going, keep them strong like me. Kelly's skinny because he works harder than I do. I sit behind this desk and do a lot of this stuff. Damian, you golf a lot, so I see why you're a skinnier person. I don't do all that. I get bigger. I'm a bigger person, so I need more microbes. I need more dirt to hold me.
DJ, I was going to let you go on for a while, but actually, Mr. Garrett, he's very degrading to dairy farmers in general, but he says that the reason I am skinny is because I grew up eating Holsteins instead of the kind of beef that he produces. That's what he says.
Yep. And so I grew up with dairy too, but then we went to beef. So, look what happened to me.
So answer me this, Mr. Kelly, when I talk about moving away from cereal rye, that was how this whole thing got started. Then we went into the erosion, we went into a whole bunch of other stuff. I think that the cereal rye thing began, and it gave a bunch of farmers the excuse that they wanted to not do cover crops ever again because it didn't have a positive outcome. It's like, see, I tried that and it didn't work. And it gave you it's like the old thing of I'll prove to myself what I already wanted to prove, because you can do an experiment that does that, right? I think that's what cereal rye did.
I do think that there's some validity in that point. Because it's not a one-time fix. It isn't something that happens overnight, and the further north you get, it can be challenging, things like that. But we want to use cereal rye because of the mass that it puts out there. It's easy, when we put out the cover crops, we want a lot of tonnage, we want a lot of vegetation, we want it to be green, and the cereal rye really does a great job of that. I have now evolved a little bit. I've tried to plant green into cover crops. I've tried to plant green into cereal rye, and I've had problems. I've had a yield deficit. I've had problems like that. I've talked with TJ about it. It is the allopath effect, especially, in all of my corn on corn and things like that we go to. And, I still use cereal rye now, but I use it to chop. And I'll tell you, I followed up. I thought, we'll let this cereal rye mature. We will chop it, and then we'll put the sorghum out there and we'll chop that. I should have maybe done some tillage. I should have done a better chemical program. I had an allopath effect from that cereal rye after I chopped it in the sorghum. And so now we've gone to the brassicas, we've gone to the kales, the radishes, different things like that. I really like oats. What I want to now use cover crops for is erosion, number one. I don't know that this is in any certain point or any certain order. Erosion, cattle feed, and disease prevention. And oats is a natural deterrent of fusarium. Fusarium is the number one problem I feel that I have in my soils. And so I'm really big on oats. Now, I know they don't overwinter, but I'm really big on oats. We get a lot of nice fall growth for the cattle feed. We're the erosion prevention. And in the fall, we can get some fall rains. And then the fusarium, the deterrent of fusarium is the reason that I really like oats. And, TJ will add in some other things there that we use as well. But my belief in these has evolved. And I do think there's a benefit in my hills.
There's a benefit in your hills. And the person that's saying that wants to be anti-cover crop, they come up with the excuses like TJ and I talks about, it's too cold, harvest is too late, whatever, or I don't have hills. I think those other things you just talked about, they're going to say, well, I don't have an erosion problem, which a lot of people have erosion problems that they don't see because it didn't wash into the ditch, but they still have some erosion problem. I mean, I've never seen white snow when I was driving on Interstate 29 in the Red River Valley. I've seen a lot of black snow. You can say it's not washing away. Well, that snow didn't get black on its own. It blew off all those acres that they fall till every year. But then there's disease mitigation. I think you'd also make the case for microbial activity, increase in organic matter, and water infiltration issues. TJ, Kelly didn't name those in his top three, but I'd say those are the next three, aren't they?
Absolutely. And I think that's what it is each farm has a list of things that are their priorities. I know what Kelly's are. He and I work very closely together. I know what they are. I go to the next guy 20 miles down the road, he flip-flop it. But the species that we pick are very similar because they fit all these boxes. The oats side of it, I've really been big on oats, pushing oats, especially in guys that don't want a lot of overwintering. I get that 100%. But if you leave it alone, all that carcass is out there and it's still holding the soil. It's still armoring the ground. It's protecting the rain from pounding on it. It's all still there. So a bushel of oats goes a long, long ways. Half a bushel of oats goes a long ways. And it's something that we always just kind of treated as, well, it's just oats. Oats are a phenomenal crop. I really wish we just need to move more and more oats into these mixes, and they work pair well with these brassicas, the kales, cabbage, the turnips, the radishes. They just pair well with them and help protect them so they live longer in the fall and do their job longer in the fall, what we need them to do.
Kelly, at your place, we looked at the field this summer, and it was oats and peas. And I think it was just peas like I would plant in my garden. I think it was just green peas, but maybe some kind of a more hardy pea. But what was in that mix that we looked at?
It was oats and peas, and we put it in there to bale it. TJ can talk about the exact ratio of oats to peas it was. He actually wanted it to be heavier peas because the feed value would be better, the protein would be higher, but then we would have to either chop it or we would have to wet bale it because it wouldn't dry down. So we were a little heavier oat, little lighter pea, which did hurt the protein, but we could roll it up in your traditional round bale. We're feeding them to the cows now, and it is a tremendous feed source.
Yeah. So if you're going to, and then again, there's going to be somebody that says, well, I don't have livestock, this doesn't apply to me. That might still be a good mix for a lot of people because you just talked about the benefit of oats.
Yeah, exactly. So if I can make a point about that, the people that don't have livestock, that's fine. And we are feeding it to our own livestock, but you can sell those bales. Sell those bales. It's another cash crop. And if you've got, work with Earth Optics, okay? And if you've got a fusarium problem, maybe consider putting that field to oats. Beans don't look profitable. Corn looks like we're hoping for a break even in 26. What if you put that field to oats that has a fusarium problem and bale it, add some peas to it, take the feed value reading, get a relative feed value reading and see what your protein is. And here's another cash crop that we're selling. And I feel like it has a better chance of being profitable than corn and soybeans. And we're amending that soil disease. We're amending that fusarium. It's an outside the box look, but I think it warrants some conversation.
It does. I want to hear what worked and what didn't in this year because we know you did oats and peas. That's not the only thing you did. And then I want TJ's perspective going beyond just the Garrett land and cattle because you've got some other results from other places and stuff that we've learned because we're really trying to talk about improving our outcomes. So we're going to get into both those things. Before I do, since Kelly just mentioned it, I'm going to mention it. I'm talking about Earth Optics. Earth Optics is a sponsor here for our friends at XtremeAg, and it's because we actually use their stuff. If you want to know what your soil looks like, Earth Optics can help you. With Earth Optics, you get the most precise soil insights in the industry. Clear, accurate data on fertility, biology, and compaction. No more guessing, just the information you need to make smarter decisions, optimize your input costs, and boost your yields. Earth Optics puts the full picture of your soil right in your hands so you can farm confidently and profitably. Unlock healthier soils, stronger harvests, and a better bottom line. Go to earthoptics.com, www.earth, like the planet you live on, optics like your eyeballs, earthoptics.com to learn more. What'd you do besides oats and peas?
The oats is very common in our cover crop mix. We also had that field that was just oats and peas that we wanted to bale. We have oats in our warm season or cold. Where we do the intentional or intensive rotational grazing. Oats is part of the mix there. Peas are part of the mix there just to graze them. TJ can talk more in depth about the different perspectives we have. But what we're really trying to do in that intensive rotational grazing is get up to like 3 cows per acre. And we're getting closer. We've had to stop using atrazine, which I don't think is bad when you study it, but we've stopped using atrazine now. 26 will be the 3rd year of no atrazine on our farm. And the reason is the carryover that it has. It's hard on some crops, and we've had to kind of pick and choose what we can use for cover crops, Damian, and rotational grazing crops. We've had to pick and choose them because they don't all work because of the atrazine. And so my chemical mix has cost a bit more, not a lot, but a bit more. But the benefits we see from the cover crops, I think, far outweighs that. We also, the last thing that we let TJ talk about this, we seeded some cover crops very early. Like we wanted to seed them like at 3 or 4 leaf corn. It was more like 6 or 7 because of our chemical program and some rain and things like that. But that was a success as well, getting those cover crops out there earlier before the ground was shaded.
So interseeding them in the standing crop, which people might have thought you were crazy, and that was the big experiment for 2025. The results on that are?
The results were good. Now, TJ was frustrated with me because I didn't get it out there. Wingrove and I didn't get it out there soon enough, and it was because of the chemical that we had and some rain. It pushed it off a little bit. And it didn't turn out that we had a drought, obviously, but we were really forecast across the Midwest to have a drought. And, Damian, you and I have talked about this with TJ and things like that as well. Gabe Brown and his talk of collaborative species out there. And so when we monocrop with like corn, we really reduce the amount of water that the soil can hold. Yep. And so it wasn't that I was necessarily excited to have a drought, but with the forecast for the drought, I'm like, let's try this. Let's put out this collaborative species. And TJ helped us select species of plants that would collaborate with the corn, not compete. So let's do that because then we wanted to see, can the soil structure, can we change it to try to hold more water? Because we did a video, TJ and I, here a couple of years ago in that intensive rotational grazing, and I think it was in 23, you could dig down and see, and everywhere the root from different species touched, it was moist. And Gabe Brown talks about a 10x water holding capacity in your soil. After seeing that with TJ in my rotational grazing fields, I believe in it. And so I wanted to do this in that corn crop to see if I could increase the water holding capacity to improve that corn crop in a drought. We didn't have a drought, but we still made the attempt. And if nothing else, the weed control was better, I think. The erosion control was better, and the cattle feed was better because that crop had so much longer to grow before we harvested the corn.
Interesting. All right. So also it didn't steal yield. That was the other big concern.
It did not. We have that yield map, and we'll talk about that at the data conference, I believe. We didn't see any deficit to yield at all because, again, TJ helped us choose species of plants that collaborated, not competed.
He's leading me right into it again, TJ. So before we go to your next question, he just mentioned data conference. If you're listening to this and it happens to be before the end of January, be sure that you put January 25 and 26 on your calendar. January 25 and 26 is the XtremeAg first annual data conference. If you come to Davenport, Iowa, and you're an XtremeAg member, you will be there for free. No registration cost. Your hotel room is paid for. Your meals, your drinks paid for. Well, maybe not all your drinks, depending on, how much you drink. Anyway, I'm going to be there on stage. Kelly's going to be there on stage, and we're going to make sure that we let you get all the information from the companies that we work with. It's a data conference. We're going to share all of the actual information, and you can ask the questions to take your farming to the next level and also have a little bit of fun. So it's January 25 and 26. If you're an XtremeAg member, it's free to attend. If you're not an XtremeAg member, you can still sign up. $750 a year is an annual membership. For that $750, you go to data conference for free. You go to Commodity Classic for free because of our friends over at Nature's. You get a direct line to people like the Calibrated Agronomy guys, so you can ask them questions, and you get some other benefits. So why don't you check it out? Go to extremeag.farm, check out all the videos, and also become a member. TJ, around the country, what are we learning, what worked and what didn't? Are we going to see more of this interseeding during the vegetative phase like Kelly did?
I think we can, Damian, as long as a couple things. One is we got to look at that chemical program for 2 years prior to what we're doing. Because there are herbicides, and they do a wonderful job. That's what they're there to do, is clean up weeds. They take care of broadleaves, they take care of grasses, and then we put something out there saying, kill that one, but don't kill this one. It doesn't work.
The atrazine from a year and a half ago could still be in there and make it so your radishes don't grow.
No, it won't kill it all, but you're going to ding 20, 30, 40% of your stand. Well, I don't want to sell something that you're going to ding right off the bat. So if we can look back and say, hey, we got to do this for 1 or 2 more years. You got to stop, go to a different program. And there's programs out there, and there's a lot more research and data on how many programs are out there. But what we use in the interseeding, and I think the farther north you go, this becomes a very, very a good way of doing it for corn on corn, guys that are going to go back to maybe a specialty product. We go with this interseeding early with brassicas. We use the kale, we use turnips, we use cabbage. Those 3 work for us. Early seeded. They don't get viney and stringy. They still make a tuber. They make the same plant. And then I use something that everybody gets panicky over, annual ryegrass. not cereal rye, it's annual ryegrass. And it's not tetraploid, it's not titilia, which is Italian rye, which keeps coming back. This is a diploid ryegrass that can be terminated with herbicide correctly in the spring. Sometimes it doesn't overwinter. What if it doesn't overwinter? If it's 40 inches worth of roots underneath and a foot or half a foot of top growth, it's done its job. It doesn't have to overwinter. But if it does, it's just a bonus for grazing, water suppression, soil erosion, all the great things we're trying to do. It's there for you. We've cut the rates back. We used to do 18 pounds. We're cutting it down to 10 to 12. We're still getting the same great growth out of it. Kelly did a little bit late, and I wasn't upset, Kelly. I was just panicky because I've seen it go late and I've seen it not make it. And then I'm like, oh, this is going to be the first year of this and we're going to fail at it. But we've really learned that it can take it a little bit later, depending on stature of corn and fertility. And you had plenty of fertility out there, so we had a great stand. I think moving north, this is a really good attribute. You don't have to have cattle to make this work. A typical row crop guy can make this work, and there's reasons that it really works well. I have a guy that strip tills it in. Strip tills part of it in every year. That's green manure. I'm fine with that, but there's still cover on both sides of his strip. That's terrific. He's really checking a lot of boxes. And he's not just using cereal rye, which is good, but I think we're finding some better things. But he started with cereal rye and he worked up to this. So I really like the early interseeding, but it takes a little more getting used to and a little more due diligence on how you do things with it. But once you get it to work, it's terrific.
We talked about when we were going through some of the note taking yesterday about the economics. So far, you and especially Kelly have made the agronomic case, except for he made an economic case for cow feed. Again, say there's a person listening to this like, well, that's great. I don't have cattle. The economic case, sometimes we've gotten these cover crops paid for from an Iowa State program or from a USDA program, and then it also helps you qualify for like a carbon program. Moving forward, do we have enough economic case to make somebody that's still considering or not considering doing it? I'd be a cover cropper if I was an operator for all the things we talked about, but give me the economic case, farmer perspective first, Mr. Garrett.
Well, I really think, you can still get equip money for this and things like that to try it, to learn. And now with that,
is it enough? Does equip dollar for dollar cover for me to get the cover crop and put it on?
Yes, it does.
So then every benefit for the soil is bonus because I've got at least my application planting is covered.
It does. The CSP program that we're still part of, there's some equip money to do some separate programs. Part of the CSP program that my sons and I are part of, we get part of that money is because, one of the boxes we check to get to CSP program are cover crops. That's the way to explain it. And now, it remains to be seen, but this $700 million that came out for Regen Ag, it remains to be seen where that money will all go. So, but I believe part of that will be cover crops. And I believe part of that will be because of the regulation that we fear is coming. I don't like regulation either because I don't want to be told what to do, but I don't know that we have a choice.
It seems like we're going to get money for this kind of stuff through that $700 million. But I've read it, and some of it's got a degree of ambiguity that it's not clear yet. Like what I'm going to have to do to get part of that money as a farmer. TJ? You've got a little bit of read on it, maybe.
Yeah. So I think that becomes part of it. Is we've had NRCS SWC programs since the Dust Bowl. We've had programs out there. And I got growers who are like, I don't want to go to the government office. I don't want to get the program money. It's too much work. So we, as a company, we walk people through it. We show them the species. We do the mixes for them. We show them how to make it work. We get them up there. We get them signed up. We try to just take them down the path so they don't fail at it. Because to me, it's educational money. It's like continuing or learning money from realtors or whatever. You're learning how to make this work. And after so many years, if it's gone, you already have it dialed in where you don't have to worry about it. Or if regulations come and they don't pay anything for a regulation move, well, you already know what to do. So you're already ahead of it. I think the problem is when we talk about this, and we talk about, okay, guys can't make it work. I look at a large producer. So say like in Meyer, you got a 2,000 to 3,000, 4,000 acre producer. He's so scripted, and he's nothing wrong with what he's doing, but he's very scripted. The field cultivator runs today. The planter runs tomorrow. The sprayer puts the pre-emerge down at 32%. We come back and spray again. Our corn crop's in and done. You start adding cover crops and say, well, now you can't spray after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You can't spray before 9 o'clock in the morning. You can't do this. Now it's going to be too cold because it's not going to terminate. And we put all these hurdles in front of him, and he says, well, it doesn't work. So like in Kelly's case, he took one of the hurdles out by saying, I'm going to use a non-overwintering oat crop that's going to give me great benefits, but I don't have to worry about terminating in the spring. Some brassicas come back, big deal. We're putting a broadleaf killer down anyways. You're going to get rid of them easy. So I think that the hurdle is to get that large guy to say he's going to do it. And then the economic benefit is they use less spray a lot of times, a lot less herbicide, a lot less tillage, a lot less fuel. I got one guy that's saving almost 60% of his fuel budget because he's went to no-till, strip till, and cover crops. He's saving 60% of the fuel he used to buy. His fuel bill is $100,000. He's buying 40 grand worth of fuel.
Yeah, but this flies in the face because the excuse is going to be I use more fuel, more time, and more tractor hours to go out and put in the cover crops and then also to terminate them. But as you said, his guys were going to be out to the spray rig in the spring anyhow.
Yep.
Right?
So in the fall, I had a guy tell me that, well, what am I going to do? I pull that 15-foot ripper, 20-foot ripper. I see you pull a 40-foot drill with the same tractor, covering 40 feet versus 20. Oh, I said, you're using less fuel per acre. Oh, you're right.
Not only pulling an implement that's twice as wide, it's probably only pulling half as hard.
Yeah.
One thing that I'd like to touch on that doesn't ever really get talked about, the atrazine that we've been using, and like the species of plants that we had to choose or couldn't choose because of the use of atrazine. You can't tell me that doesn't hurt the yield of the corn and soybeans just a little bit when it builds up over time like that. If
atrazine can be there a year and a half later and kill my radishes, how can it not have some level of detrimental effect to the actual crop that I'm attempting to produce to put in the bin?
Damian, there was one plant, and TJ will remember, there was one species of plant I wanted to use, and you had to be without atrazine for 2 years before you could. Which one was that, TJ? Do you remember?
That was one of the peas. And it showed response 2 years later of dying.
So if that pea, if that pea showed a response, you're going to tell me a soybean doesn't? I wonder about this, and I've been so heavy corn, we're going to have more soybeans next year. I wonder what my soybean yields will do without atrazine being a forever chemical in that ground. I'm not trying to necessarily be environmental about it. I just want to have a better ROI. And I'm like, are you serious? We can't plant peas for 2 years, but it's okay to have a corn soybean rotation.
TJ, are you hearing this? There's a conventional, verging on regenerative, many ways, Iowa farmer questioning atrazine. This is like going to the Vatican and standing up and saying there might not be a pope. I mean, this is going to be a problem here because if you want to grow corn, you got to use atrazine, Kelly. It's
worked well and it's inexpensive. So I understand all of the positives of atrazine. Yeah. However, I had no idea that it was around in the soil that long because nobody ever told me that. And
by the way, we've been using it, to your point, we've used it in places like where you and I are from for 60 years, early 70s, mid 70s.
3 generations, I'd say.
At least, when I was a kid, we were using it, right, TJ, we were using it in the 70s, right?
It was the original chemical.
Yeah, it was after 2,4-D. 2,4-D was our first one, and then, by golly, atrazine, and we flung that stuff every which way. Real quickly, all the good about atrazine, it kind of reminds you of one of those commercials. Those commercials, TJ, that they put on the evening news to gear to your demographic? And by that, I mean old people, like pharmaceutical products.
Yep. All the things. And then at the end, they tell you all the bad things.
I was going to say, if you take this, if you're having those tremors when you eat, old person, we'll make it so you have those tremors. Oh, you'll get diarrhea. You won't be able to remember your name, and you'll probably have hives. But aside from that, and don't drive. Yeah, exactly.
Don't drive.
I just can't help. I can't help but think there's a yield penalty there somewhere. And so my chemical program now is a bit more expensive, but I'm fairly confident that the yield's going to make up for it because what have we been doing?
So you think about that, Kelly, where you said with the atrazine. So all the years we did that over and over and over again. Soybeans, like corn has the ability to yield 500 bushels, maybe even more. It's got the ability to do it. Just environmental takes away from it. We've taken away from soybeans. There's no reason soybeans don't do 100, 120 bushel beans. Now, would that help us? No, not really, because we're overproducing them anyways. But we have limited soybeans. One way or another, we've limited soybeans. Is that one of the limiting factors that has just not really hurt the yield bad, but it's taken a percentage? What if it's 10% of your yield potential? You're at a 70 bushel yield potential, you took out 10 bushels. Well, at current market, that's $100.
That's exactly the line of thinking I have.
So while we're on the environmental discussion, and we're not in any way being radical, crazy environmentalists, we're just talking about some realities. If we got a product here that sticks around for 2 years in the soil, and we've been using it intensively for 50 to 60 years, let's talk about the next thing we've been using intensively and maybe over applying, things like N and P. So TJ, you and I both believe, and I opened the show by saying this, I shot a video walking along my drainage ditch at my farm in Indiana in springtime, and I said, because of XtremeAg, I've learned that only 35% of applied nitrogen gets into this corn plant right here. Where's the other 2/3 go? In this drainage ditch? And you wonder why the state representative in Des Moines is out there along the Raccoon River talking about we need to monitor and stop agriculture's nitrogen overuse getting into our water supply. I'm not anti-ag. I'm just telling you this is what's coming. We get outvoted 99-1 all the time. Cover crops play into the nutrient management aspect of this, and I'm not sure that it's unjustified that agriculture's got a little bit of a target on its back when it comes to things like nitrogen and phosphorus in our waterways.
So I work with a group out of Mankato at Minnesota State University over there, and one of the gals made a great point. She goes, municipals dump a lot of stuff in the water too, but that's a small area. Ag is a large landmass, so we have the biggest bullseye because we're the large landmass, so we must be doing things really wrong. Well, we're not. We're trying to do the best job we can. We're the bigger landmass, so we have more going into those areas than a municipal does. Municipal's a smaller landmass. They're probably doing the same amount of things. They're just at a more condensed level, and it looks worse when it comes out our end. So when you take ag, we've been told to put this much NP and K on all the time, which at the time, it was probably correct. But the farther we get into this, the better our hybrids are, the better our soil reacts, the better we do things. I think we can really start weaning those rates down. And the other part is, if we don't use it, it gets in the water and goes to somebody who doesn't want it there. And that's one thing. And if you talk economics, if you could raise the same corn on 100 bushel, 100 pounds of nitrogen versus 200, you're making more money. So if that cover crop helps scavenge up NP and K, which we know it can, holds it there in the biomass, lets it go back to your crop next year, that's a bonus. You're recycling what you did not use. You drive around any city, there's recycling bins everywhere. Put your plastic here, put your cans here, but we let stuff get away from us in ag a little bit. So let's hold on to every ounce of it. If I bought 100 pounds of N, I want the 100 pounds of N used one way or another because I paid for it. And I'm kind of a tight butt that way. I hate paying for something I don't get the use out of. It's like leaving a meal. I don't leave nothing on my plate when I leave a restaurant. There's no sense in that business. I mean, if it's there and brought to me, I paid for it, I'm eating it all. I might eat my wife. So if she doesn't eat, she's real tiny. She doesn't eat all her food. I'm eating her food too because I don't want waste. And I think that's kind of what we've done is we had a little bit of waste. I think we can control it a lot better by recycling, and the cover crops really fit that build really well.
I was going to throw this to Kelly, but I figured he'd have something to go on this. But if you don't, I got my last wrap on this entire topic that I think is going to bring it all together. But if you have anything to follow up on him.
No, go ahead. He said it.
I'm going to tell you, and this, again, remember, I'm the host of this show. I'm not supposed to be the opinion person, but I keep up with a lot of stuff, and I watch a lot of media, and I travel this country. I believe that I could almost make the case that this $700 million of a regenerative ag initiative is partially appeasing the RFK Maha movement because, densities, nutrient, all that stuff that Kelly likes to talk about. I can make the argument this is also the trial balloon of you are going to use certain practices, reduce tillage, cover cropping, probably reduction of applied synthetics, and in a few years, you'll have no choice. Yeah, you'll still get USDA programs, but to get crop insurance, to be eligible for USDA programs, this will be part of it. I wonder, Kelly, if this $700 million is a little bit appeasing the RFK Maha thing and also taking this to the next level. And if you're going to throw it out there and the farmer's going to say, yeah, but you know what, this might take some adoption time for me, I might lose some yield. Well, we're giving you $12 billion over on this other hand because we have so much yield that our prices are below the cost of production. I could make the case that I think this is where this is going, and in another couple of years, it's part of the USDA program.
I think you'd be, I think you'd be very wrong to not think that that's a possibility. If again, they haven't even said what the programs are. Nope. But when the programs come out to spend the $700 million, if one of them goes well or very well, the idea that it will become law, I think, is very logical, or become policy, become law, or become regulation is a very logical thing to say, and it probably is headed down that road to appease the Maha movement and to appease the regulators, especially with the nitrogen in the groundwater.
All right, so we all think this is where this ultimately goes, and we're not cheering on the regulation, but if this $700 million and what we think the program is going to look like, obviously I think it's going to involve cover cropping and different nutrient management programs as being a requirement for the money, and then it ends up being a project for USDA compliance. TJ?
Yeah, so you take like where Kelly's partner Temple was at out in the Chesapeake Bay. That started as a 7-year pilot program. After 7 years, they said, here's your rules, and you'll live by them, or you'll get fined. And the fines were steep enough, so guys were like, okay, I got to live by this. Ohio has the same thing with their H2O program. They're going to Lake Erie. They realized that by doing these practices, there isn't stuff getting into those areas that are sensitive water areas. We all live at the top of the Mississippi Basin. All of our water goes to the Gulf, and they got problems down there. If we stopped it from coming down, it changes the whole attribute of what's going on in the Gulf. So every time I see something that says pilot program, it makes me realize that they're monitoring this to set precedents and set policy. And if these are the things they want, the other part is the healthier the soil gets, the healthier the food gets, the healthier we'll get. That will all tie in together. I believe that 100%. But the rules and regulations, and guys will fight it. They'll fight it right to the end, but it will happen. I don't want to be the negative Nelly about it. I don't want to, but I can tell you right now, there's things happening, and we got to really pay attention to this, because we don't want. Okay, here's the thing. I don't want to have to be the bad guy that comes sell you cover crops, but I will be that. I got
a choice but to buy it from you.
Yeah, we'll be antagonistic guys, and now I got to buy from you. This makes me mad. I don't want that. So let's start working together forward so you understand it. You don't have to do 100%. You don't have to be perfect at it. But let's learn and go forwards. The money is there to learn.
What's Mr. Garrett say? Every year, 10% of your acres, isn't that right? 10% of your acres should be in...
10% of your acres should be in research.
Research. Yeah. And what's the other one? If you can't, you're already broke and you don't know it?
Kip Kohler's told Chad Henderson and I, if you cannot afford for 10% of your acres to be in research, you're already broke and you just don't know it yet.
Yep.
All right, so why don't you dabble in cover crops? That's the recommendation we have for you in this episode. If you want to learn more about the company that TJ represents, the website is it's BioTill is the company, BioTill. You can just go in here. I'm going to pull it up on my phone right now myself, and you can learn all about cover crops that work for you. It is biotill.com. Right there it is on my phone. His name is TJ Kartes. He has been on this show before. He's going to be doing some stuff in 2026 with us at XtremeAg. And Kelly's going to continue to do more of what works and what doesn't. Remember what I told you about the data conference, January 25, 26, and also at Commodity Classic. We'll be there. We want you to be there. Till next time, he's Kelly. He's TJ. I'm Damian Mason. This is XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
That's a wrap for this episode of Cutting the Curve. Make sure to check out XtremeAg.farm for more great content to help you squeeze more profit out of your farming operation.